Last year, over 80% of my students bought their very first rental property in a state they didn't even live in. And guess how many of them went to go see their property in person? 0%. Yep, not one of them had ever been to their property or seen it in person. And they still had the confidence to buy it, and they are happy that they did. Now, depending on who you talk to, that's either genius or the stupidest thing someone could do. And that's the question that I'm gonna be answering today. Is out-of-state investing worth it for beginners? By the time we're done here today, you're gonna have a clear answer for yourself, either yes or no, and you'll know exactly why. Plus, I'm going to walk you through how to do it in a way that works in real life, so you don't end up with a nightmare tenant, so you don't end up buying a property that eats all your cash, and so you don't buy a deal that you immensely regret. Let's go. Okay, let's start with why so many people even have to consider going out of state in the first place. Well, the reason is there's just no potential cash flow in your local market because your local market is too expensive. You run the numbers on the duplex down the street and you're already staring at a negative $500 a month cash flow. There are people doing it. It's frustrating. And it feels like you're just never going to get anything because everything's so expensive, there's no possible way anybody could be cash flowing anywhere. But here's the trap you're in. When you're that frustrated because nothing in your market works, you immediately start going to look in cheaper markets without really knowing what you're walking into. The truth is, there are still affordable, yet not crappy markets all over the country. But the goal here isn't cheap. The goal is quality. You want neighborhoods with strong rental demand because you want to attract great A-plus tenants right from the start. Another reason why people might look outside their own backyard to invest in real estate is because when they see properties that might cash flow where they live, they don't want to own anything in those types of neighborhoods. It's like, yeah, you can buy a house over there, but it's in a rough part of town. It's gang infested and it just sucks. It needs a roof. It's ugly. It's small. There's only one bathroom. And there's probably a tenant in there who hasn't paid rent in 3 months. So what happens is people think, well, if I can't buy a house here that cash flows, I'll go look in another city, which is fine if you know what you're looking for. And that's where a lot of beginners go wrong, unfortunately. They don't have a system for finding quality neighborhoods and quality properties in other cities that they aren't familiar with. And they forget in rental property investing, the rental property is only as good as the people living in it. Another reason why people might feel the need to go out of state and buy properties in areas that they don't live near is because they hear about this magical unicorn out there called the BRRRR method. And they see it and they hear it on YouTube and it's all over social media. You know the pitch. Buy it cheap, do full renovations, recycle your down payment over and over again. You don't need to have tons of money, just a little bit, and you can keep using that same money, those same funds over and over again to buy more and more properties. You know that one. But here's the biggest problem with that method. That is the fastest way beginners who buy out-of-state rental properties lose money, big time. The BRRRR method is not for new investors. It's an advanced strategy. The numbers might look good on paper. The idea sounds great, but when it comes down to real life, it doesn't happen like that. A lot of those properties that work with that method are in high tenant turnover neighborhoods, bad parts of town, and areas where the rents just don't really appreciate all that much. I have seen and heard and read about so many people that sink $30,000 to $40,000 into a cheap property and then spend the next 2 years doing evictions and doing those major renovations all over again. And here's the thing. Most of the out-of-state investing disasters have nothing to do with how far away the property is. It's not because the investor lives 2,000 miles away. It's because they didn't have the right process. They didn't know how to choose a quality market. They didn't know how to attract quality tenants. They didn't know how to do the right repairs that are needed for that market, which markets are different and tenants want and need different things across the country. I can't tell you the amount of times I've talked to people on the Instagram DMs and they live on the West Coast and they're interested in buying a property in Alabama because it has a large lot and they want to put an ADU on it. Well, nobody does ADUs in Alabama. Land's too cheap. That would not be desirable to share yard space with 2 families. That would be a wrong move for those investors to have that thought process. So Markets and tenant expectations are different all across the country in different markets. A big mistake that new investors make buying their first deal out of state is that they just chase these high ROI numbers, this high cash flow number on paper, and they look for the cheapest house in the crappiest little neighborhood because it's cheap and it cash flows on paper. But it's a disaster waiting to happen. I talked to an investor recently who bought a $70,000 house in a new market halfway across the country. It wasn't a great market, right? It was one of the top markets for rental properties and talked about all over on Bigger Pockets. But that guy had 2 evictions in 2 years, thousands of dollars in turnover costs. And that $400 a month in cash flow that they were bragging about on their social media turned into a massive negative loss and lots of gray hairs. And that's called regret. That guy regretted going through that process and buying those properties because it wasn't worth it. And guess what he learned? That cash flow isn't the only thing that matters. You have to buy in the right areas. So if you're going to approach out-of-state investing, you have to have a different mindset. It's not just about what's going to give you the most cash flow. First of all, it's tenants first. If you don't have long-term reliable tenants, you don't have any cash flow, period. It's market first. You need to look for neighborhoods with strong rental demand, good schools, acceptable crime, areas that people want to live in. Then it's property second. The house matters, yes, but the tenant and the location matters way more. And if you're wondering, okay, well, how do I spot these good neighborhoods that attracts quality tenants, that has low crime and all the things? You need to understand what A, B, C, and D quality neighborhoods are first. I break it all down in my video. I'll put a link for you down below. So when you go about looking out of state for a rental property, it's not just the ROI, the cash flow, it's the tenants you're gonna get, it's the neighborhood you're gonna be buying in. Because when you're looking in the right markets and you know how to find these amazing properties in these amazing neighborhoods, out-of-state investing then becomes fun and easy. And it becomes simple and boring. And all of those things is what I'm after. I want it fun, easy, simple, and boring. I don't want any drama. I don't want emergency phone calls. And I don't want disasters. Just consistent rent checks, steady income, and tenants that I can depend on. So let's talk about the upside, because there's a lot to love about out-of-state investing when it's done right. First of all, you can get much better price and rent ratios in less expensive markets. You can buy in landlord-friendly states that protect you much more as a property owner. You wouldn't catch me dead buying in Illinois. You can diversify your portfolio so you're not stuck with all your eggs in one basket. And you can tap into areas that have strong rental demand and strong appreciation potential. That's really going to help you in the long run. One of my students just bought his first rental property 2 states away for $180,000. Great neighborhood, already a solid tenant in place. Property manager was vetted, ready to rock and roll. Now, just a short time later, that property went from $180,000 in value to $220,000 in value without him having to do anything for that increase. It cash flows every single month, and they've never had a late payment. That is the kind of boring success that I like. How about you? Now, there are downsides to buying out of state, and I am one to tell the truth and give you the pros, the cons, the good, bad, and the ugly. And ignoring these cons, that's exactly how people get burned buying investment properties, especially the ones out of state. One big con to buying far away from where you live is that, yeah, you can't drive by your property and check on it. But that's why you build that boots on the ground team who's going to take care of it, because you do need somebody there to watch your property, to go there in case of an emergency. And you'll need that boots on the ground person before you write the offer. Another con is that it is hard to judge properties by looking at them on the computer. I mean, I know I have seen properties that look great online on realtor.com, and then you get to it and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible. So, don't be buying a property straight from the computer screen. You do need to have somebody, even if it's not you, go look at the property, give you their opinion, do videos, take pictures, and you can ask that boots on the ground person those detailed questions so you get the same information as if you were there in real life. But you cannot just buy a property straight from the internet. without somebody seeing it in person that you trust. Another way to really shoot yourself in the foot is to not know what you're doing and rely too heavily on your quote team members for their opinion. So those team members you're going to be relying on are property managers and real estate agents. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's my first time buying out of state and I'm going to rely on a property manager and a realtor because, they live there and they know all the answers. Everybody has an opinion, right? Everybody's opinion on which side of the tracks is good or bad varies based on their personal experience. And unfortunately too, just because someone is in a realtor position or a property manager position, that doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. They might be the stupidest person on the world and leading you down a rabbit hole of they're making stuff up, right? Just to get the sale or the deal closed. So you can't trust those people wholeheartedly. You have to know your own information. You need to be the expert first in your market by doing proper research and not rely on those boots on the ground for everything. Remember, it's your hard-earned money. It's your down payment. It's your property that you're purchasing. And so you need to know the answers, and you're only going to use those boots on the ground team to solidify your answers, to just be another check on the box. But you can't lean on them for the know-all, end-all, be-all. And then there's the contractors and the subcontractors. There is tons of risk there, even with the property managers too. So you have to vet those people like crazy. Multiple interviews, references. Check them, do little checks along the way during your property tours and before you're even in contract on any out-of-state property. You should be giving these property managers and potential contractors little checks, little quick tests along the way to see if they're worthy of your business before you sign on the dotted line with them. And I know I said this a second ago, but I'm going to say this again. Do not rely on the listing photos to make your offers. Always get a third-party inspection and a detailed written report. Even during COVID times, when people were making offers and waiving home inspection reports, my students were not waiving inspection reports. That is not something any new investor should do, or even an experienced investor. You need to have somebody you trust look over that property because oftentimes the seller is not giving you all the details. I just had a student last week look at a property online, out-of-state area, loved it. Loved the photos online, super excited. They're like, this is the one. And then they have their realtor go out and look at it, and we're like, it's terrible. Oh my God. And then the student felt bad for sending their realtor out, but I assured them that's the realtor's job. They're happy they went too. Imagine if the student had not gotten a realtor to go look and just written a blind offer and just gotten it accepted and sent the seller their deposit to find out their property was terrible and misrepresented. A lot of people will take photos of their properties and put these amazing, beautiful filters on them, and they look completely different when you get inside. So having a quality realtor go the extra mile and look at all the properties before you make offers is a great way for you to get the answers you need so you're not writing a check and putting an earnest money deposit on the line when it's not needed. If you want to go deeper on exactly what criteria and what things really make up a profitable rental property market, especially one you can't drive to, check out my video called 3 Criteria to Choose the Best Long-Term Rental Property Market, with the link down below. Now, let's talk timing, because this is where a lot of people freeze. Yes, prices are coming down in some of the higher priced markets. Those markets that boomed during COVID, the ones where the starter homes are now like $500,000 to $700,000, but they still aren't coming down enough for people to buy them. And interest rates are still hovering around 7%. And a twist that a lot of people didn't see coming in some of the affordable cash flowing markets, those markets aren't seeing a decrease like we're seeing in Florida and Texas and Phoenix and Las Vegas. These affordable markets are not going down in price. They are going up in price. It's a seller's market in some of these great cash flowing markets, and properties are selling for 100% of asking price. Why? Because they're affordable. And not many places left are. So have you been waiting around for interest rates to drop or for there to be a market crash so you could get in with rental property investing? And now you're like, yeah, the expensive markets dropped, but the cheaper markets are going up. You're like, this doesn't make sense. And here's the kicker. If rates drop this year or next year, demand's going to go up even more in these affordable markets that are already selling out. So what are you waiting for? Right now in Memphis, where I'm at, we are in a buyer's market. So it's not everywhere that is going up in price in the affordable markets. Memphis has been one of the top rental property markets over the past 10 years. I mean, I've lived here for 12 years. It's been on the top 10 list, way at the top 1 through 5 through all these years. And right now, we're in a buyer's market, and I have not seen or been in a buyer's market in over 15 years. Right now, you can get the sellers to pay for closing costs. You can get them to come down in list price. You can get them to make repairs before closing. You can get them to do all three things sometimes. And in other markets that are affordable and cash flowing, those properties are selling. So if you're staying on the sidelines, waiting for this crash or waiting for rates to go down, guess what? Most people that are investors that see the potential in these cash flowing markets, they are not sitting and waiting. Not in all of them. So if you wanted a time to get into the real estate market, dang it, now's the time. Because the investors who are buying now, before rates drop, if they do drop, are the ones who will be sitting on even more cash flow and even more appreciation when everyone else jumps in. There is a system that I use that takes the guesswork over finding these great markets and properties that cash flow and appreciate and all the ways to make these deals work. And it's a system that I developed that I call the cake method. We choose quality markets that attract quality tenants. We buy properties that make sense for the long haul, not just for the next 12 months. We focus on steady appreciation and cash flow. And we build a local team that you can trust like they're your best friend. That's how you make out-of-state investing doable, safe, and predictable. And that's how you keep it boring. And boring is profitable. I like boring. I don't want a busy real estate investing life. I want to be busy with my kids and my husband. I want to swim in my pool. I want to make videos for you. I don't want to have to deal with tenant phone calls and cold calling and sending out tons of mailers and all that comes with being a, quote, full-time, 40-hour-a-week investor. I want to be a passive investor. I want my investments to be easy. I want to set it and forget it, collect my cash flow, keep my tenants happy, and then when I'm old, have millions and millions of dollars in net worth. You can learn more about the Cake Method by watching the Cake Method Masterclass. It's down there in the description below. So, is out-of-state investing worth it for beginners? Yes, if, and it's a big if, you do it the right way. It's not about being fearless and just going for it. It's about being prepared and knowing how to do it the right way. It's not about chasing the highest return on your spreadsheet. It's about picking quality markets that attract quality tenants so you can get that high ROI. And when you do it right, you can open up opportunities beyond what's available in your backyard. So if you want the exact process that I teach my students, you can get that in the Cake Method Masterclass down below. And otherwise, don't wait until prices drop and the market crashes and rates go down to get going. You're only prolonging your cash flow and your net worth increasing. If you found this video helpful, please do all the things. Like this video, send me some sort of hello comment down below, subscribe to my channel, ring the bell so you get notified when I send out amazingly awesome videos like this one on how to be successful with long-term rental properties. And until next time, keep building your wealth brick by brick.